And former White House press secretary under President Trump, Sean Spicer, joining us right now. Sean, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
You bet. Good morning, Maria.
Wow. I mean, what a tipping point. Harvey Weinstein and then. And this morning we've got news on Matt Lauer. We don't have a lot of information, Sean. I don't know if you have any, but right now all we know is that Matt Lauer has been fired from NBC News, according to the New York Times, for inappropriate workplace behavior. What is going on?
Well, I think considering Matt Lauer's stature, both within NBC News and within the news media, this is a huge deal because it really shows that there is a fundamental paradigm shift in how these issues are going to be handled, and that the tolerance level for inappropriate behavior is continuing to become a place where men in particular, in this case, have to be very careful. And I think that the idea that NBC News in particular is taking this seriously shows how big of a deal it's become. You remember initially they were the outlet that had the Harvey Weinstein story, and then stories circulated that they did everything they could to not air that story, and had their correspondent Ronan Farrow actually go to another publication to put it out. So for NBC News to be taking this kind of a drastic step with one of the principal anchors of NBC News shows how serious this issue has become, not just at NBC News, but throughout our country.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And now I guess it's triggering more people to come out, more people to say, look, this happened to me, and, you know, me too. And that's a good thing, because women or anyone who has been assaulted or the victim of misconduct, they're no longer afraid, Sean.
No, and that's right, and I think that's why
that's good.
When you see big people like Harvey Weinstein, who in that industry, when you see Matt Lauer, when you see an Al Franken or a Conyers, all of these people in these prominent industries who are large, giants, if you will, within their respective industries, and in some cases beyond their industry, fall. I think that is a very positive sign for women to say, you don't have to fear any longer. You can speak up when something is inappropriate, over the line, or you feel uncomfortable because you're just trying to do your job or advance yourself in your career.
Yeah, now we don't have the details, but apparently a staffer had made a complaint. We are hearing now that NBC has confirmed this. So we no longer need to attribute this to the New York Times. NBC, the Today Show, has confirmed that Matt Lauer has been fired for inappropriate workplace behavior. We will likely find more details about this. What do you want to say in terms of what's happening in Hollywood right now, Sean? Because it feels like, when you look at what happened with Harvey Weinstein, when you look at others in, Kevin Spacey, a lot of this stuff was going on and everybody knew about it. And, you just say to yourself, well, now you're telling me, and now, you're coming forward and you're denouncing Harvey Weinstein. But how many years were you complicit and actually allowed this to go on?
Right, and I actually think it's one of the things that's overlooked in this discussion, because we focus on the individual, is how many women in particular's careers did not blossom or take off or were railroaded or frankly switched industries because of the workplace environment that they were in. And I think that's really interesting. How many careers didn't take off? How many careers were capped, if you will, because somebody felt that they couldn't speak out in the environment. And I think that is sort of the lost piece of this discussion, that there's so many things that could have happened if these things had been addressed earlier. But I think, looking at some of these industries, particularly these left-leaning liberal institutions, NBC News, all of Hollywood, and recognizing that these folks on the hard left need to take a look in particular at their own behavior and the way that they treat women for the champions that they claim to be. And I think we all need to do it as a country. So this isn't just isolated into one thing. But I think for folks who have spent decades preaching the higher ground, it's time that we look at how people are dealt with. I think this is a very positive development, that people, whether they're male or female or how high they are on the totem pole, they can finally feel a little bit freer now to speak out.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, maybe they can stop lecturing the rest of us now. But look, you mentioned the left. Let's be fair here. There are issues right now on the right. You've got Roy Moore in a problem of its own right now. And then, of course, last year during the election, there were several women who accused President Trump, then candidate Trump, of misconduct. Where does that stand right now, by the way, Sean? Have we heard from those 16 women recently, the people who charged then candidate Trump with misconduct during the election?
I don't know. I have not heard anything additionally in the last several months.
Is this different? How is this? How might this be different?
Well, I think the only thing that makes it different, frankly, I think, first of all, I would say that all allegations should be treated seriously. I think we can't dismiss people who make those, but I also believe that we need to make sure that we do give people, we are a country of due process, and individuals need to make sure that they have an opportunity to confront their accusers, as in any court, as in any accusation that is made under our judicial system. So I mean, we have to take a look at the individuals, but then we have to have a system of due process and to make sure that people can't just be accused and be dismissed. And so I think there's a difference between a workplace environment and a legal matter, right? So in a workplace matter, that is up to the HR department to decide whether or not, within the confines of those employment agreements, somebody is violating the standards and practices that they have set forth in their employment. And in some of these private organizations, whether it's NBC News or the Weinstein companies or what have you, that's one thing. I think in cases where you have an elected official, in some cases, depending on what level of government it is, there are appropriate venues that can be discussed in. So in the case of the House or the Senate, there's a House and Senate ethics committees. But ultimately, beyond those venues, then there's obviously voters who get to make a decision whether or not the allegations that they feel have been made, they have to weigh those in terms of how they're going to vote for a particular individual. So it's not as clear cut in the cases of elected officials, in the sense that in a private company, just a matter of employment can be dealt with at the HR. Then if that individual wants to look at civil activity, that's their ability to pursue that, or criminal charges beyond that.
Yeah, I want to find out really what this is going to mean in terms of hiring, how the workplace changes. But first, as I mentioned earlier, Sean, the Today Show has confirmed that Matt Lauer has been fired from NBC for inappropriate workplace behavior.